Good morning, students. Today we will discuss on the built-in functions that are available in the structured query languages. First of all, we must know about the meaning of built-in function. A function which is already defined in a program or programming framework with a set of statements which together performs a task, then it is called built-in function. So that user need to create this type of functions and can use directly in their programs or applications. Many built-in functions are available in most of the programs or programming frameworks, and these functions are differ from each other. Each function, each one is having its unique functionality, its unique performance. For example, mostly all spreadsheets having a built-in function sum, which adds all cells in a row or column manner. Different programming languages have different built-in functions. Like in C language, strcpy, strcmp, strcat, malloc, calloc, free, realloc, these are the built-in functions. In Java language, two fixed two string value of concat, these type of built-in functions are available in Java languages. Built-in functions are used in SQL select expressions to calculate values and manipulate data. These functions can be used anywhere expression are allowed. Common uses of functions include changing a name to all uppercase. In this lecture, we will introduce you to basic concepts about built-in functions that are used in select expressions. In SQL, a built-in functions is a piece of programming that takes zero or more inputs and returns a value. An example of built-in function is ABS, absolute, which when given a value calculates the absolute value of the number. Calculate the absolute non-negative value of the number. Some functions such as ABS are used to perform calculations. Other such as get date, get date are used to obtain a system value such as the current date. This type of so many built-in functions are available in the SQL languages. For example, here is a simple query using the absolute value function. Select name ABS 500 from production product, where ABS 500 greater than 200. In this query, we first calculate the difference between 500 and products. The absolute function is then used to return the result as a positive number. There are several things to note regarding this function. The input to a function are called parameter. Not All functions has parameters and some functions have more than one parameter. Keep in mind that parameters are enclosed in parentheses. We use functions in the select clause as well as where clause filter condition. A function can be used anywhere in a select statement that you can use an expression. In the beginning, I have already told you that built-in functions are used with the select clause as well as where clause. Keep in mind these simple things, these basic things we must know before using built-in function in a select statement. Functions have reserved words. We must avoid using them as column or table names. If you do, then accept, expect to qualify your names with brackets. Most of the functions are used to return numeric values. Sure, they are used for this, but functions can return many other data types as well. As you will see, functions are used to manipulate datetime, varchar, and real types. In SQL, the built-in functions return one value. These are called scalar functions and are used wherever expressions are allowed in select statement. Scalar is just a fancy word for single value. We You will also learn about functions that can return table rows. These functions are called table value functions. And you will also use these latter, your own, that is user defined functions. How do functions behave? Some functions return the same value each time you call them. And these are said to be deterministic functions. For a given input, these functions return the same value each time they are called in a program, in a query. Sort, yes, SQRT, square root, which is used to return the square root of a number, so that it is a deterministic. No matter how many times you run. How can you write s- square root function in select? Example, select sqrt in bracket 9 bracket close. It will returns a value 3. Non-deterministic function return value may change from execution to execution. Get date, which returns the current date and time, is a good example of non-deterministic function. How can we write this in select statement? Select get date. This function returns a different value second by second, so that it is a non-deterministic function. This is important to keep in mind when writing and troubleshooting queries. If your query contains non-deterministic function, then you should accept the result to change. If you don't think of this and you were comparing a result, query result, you may think the inconsistent results indicated major problems, when it was only a non-deterministic function. Function categories. Next point, function categories. There are over 100 built-in functions in SQL. Functions are categorized into major categories, that is conversion function, logical functions, math functions, string functions, date functions. These are some important Types of built-in functions in SQL. Some useful SQL built-in functions are count function, most important and mostly used count function, max function, minimum function, average function, sum function, square root function, random function, concatenate function, numeric function, string function. These are mostly used in SQL for filtering the queries. I will repeat again: count, max, minimum, average, sum, square root, random function, concatenation function, numeric function, and string function. The SQL string functions are ASCII, ASCII. This function returns the ASCII value for the specific character. In this lecture, I will told you a brief description of each and every functions, and in next lecture we will take one by one with example with its description. Next string function is char. Returns the character based on the ASCII code. Concat, CONCAT, adds two or more strings together. Keep in mind the main role of the particular role of the function in short text. Concat with plus adds two or more strings together. Concat ws adds two or more strings together with a separator. Data length. This returns the number of bytes used to represent an expression. Next function is a difference. Compares two soundexes values and returns an integer value. Format formats a value with the specified format. len, len. This function returns the length of a string. Lower. This function converts a string to lowercase. Left. This function extracts a number of characters from a string starting from left. LTRIM. This function removes leading spaces from a string. Replace. This function replaces all occurrences of a substring within a string with a new substring. Reverse. This function reverses a string and returns the result. Write. This function extracts a number of characters from a string, that is starting from right. Space. This function returns a string of the specified number of space characters. Translate. This function returns the string from the first argument after the character specified in the second arguments are translated into the character specified in the third argument. Trim function removes leading and trailing spaces from a string. Upper function converts a string to upper cases. In these string functions, I have told you the all string functions related with the Oracle, related with the SQL. The most important string functions are concat, left, len, lower, ltrim, replace, reverse, trim, and upper. These are the most and mostly used string functions in SQL. Math functions or numeric functions. Again, here we will see the brief introduction. And in next lecture, we'll describe one by one functions with example. The first math function is ABS, returns the absolute value of number. AVG returns the average value of an expression. Selling returns the smallest integer value, that is greater than equal to a number. Returns the smallest integer value that is greater than equal to a number. Next is the count. Returns the number of records returned by a select query. Floor, 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 returns the largest integer value that is less than equal to a number. Max returns the maximum value in a set of values. Minimum returns the minimum value in a set of values. Power, POWER, returns the value of a number raised to the power of another number. Next is the RAND, RAND, returns a random number. Next, round, rounds a number to a specified number of decimal places. SQRT returns the square root of a number. Square returns the square of a number. SUM calculate the sum of a set of values. And in between these math function, numeric function mostly used are average, selling, count, floor, max, minimum, round, square root, square, and sum. These functions are mostly used in SQL queries with the select clause, select function, select statement, or where clause.